Irashaimase! Hello and welcome to Fitaurus Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fitaurus. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this Saturday we have XenoRaptor, the cyberdragon twin stick shoot 'em up. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. XenoRaptor, a game by Peter Clearly, originally released on PC in 2014. Now thanks to Stage Clear and Diggerati, it is now available on all modern platforms, including the PlayStation 4, the Xbox One, the Nintendo Switch, which is the version we're looking at today, and a fresh Steam release. So, this is a title that I'm not crazy about, and I'll get to as why, but this isn't really one that I would recommend, though it does have some interesting ideas. So first off, we have a couple different ways we can play the game, campaign and endless. So campaign, you're playing through stages and you can continually unlock additional stages. Endless, of course, is as it sounds. You can also play the game split screen. On consoles, it's 1 to 2 player. On the PC, via LAN or online, you can get up to 8 players. So that admittedly is neat. And then you've got the hangar. Here we can equip our cyberdragon to meet our tastes. So there's all these weapons that you can unlock, and that's one of the things that is really exciting about this. I mean, just look at all the options and upgrades that we can potentially get. So there's all these weapons that we can obtain for our cyberdragon, and you can equip 2 of them at any given point. There's also other equipment like sensors, like specials that we can change and equip, as well as engines, and you can configure the color of your dragon. My favorite color being green, that's what my cyberdragon looks like. And then you can of course save that. So once you've got your dragon looking the way you want to, you can go into campaign. And here we start off with the soul system. Just for the sake of keeping things simpler, I'll just change it to easy, though I really haven't noticed a whole lot of difference between the difficulty settings aside from you just taking more damage. So you've got Earth, Mars, and Phobos. Then we continue on to additional planets, and you would continually unlock more the further you go. So we'll of course show things off starting on Earth. When you start up, so this is a twin stick shoot 'em up. You move with the left stick, you aim with the right stick. And an important thing to note is this is a wave-based shooter. So in the top right, you see our multiplier, our score, and which wave we're on. In the bottom right, we have our radar, which is actually pretty important, as well as our health, which is the green bar there. There's also that blue bar, which happens to be our movement boost. And I just got a new type of engine, so the first type you start with is one that kind of gives you a little bit of just a quick shuffle burst. The one I've got right now is essentially kind of like an afterburner, where you can just like burn it until you run out of boost, which is your blue bar on the bottom of the radar. Then we've got a couple more indicators there at the bottom of the screen. So we have a heat indicator. The more we use our weapon, the higher the heat builds eventually to getting to the point where actually I'll continue to shoot until we get to that point, where we'll overload the weapon. And there's also an indicator above the overheat bar for how much ammunition we have for our special, which at this point is, oh, there we go, overheated. So you can find coolant that's dropped by enemies to lower that down quickly, and that's would allow you to keep on firing constantly. We also have special weapons, missiles that we are loading up from certain enemies that will drop them, and those missiles it really depends on what you have it set to. Right now I've got it set to Explosive Swarm, so it kind of fills the screen with missiles, and they deal alright damage. They don't seem to be super effective, but that could just be the homing that they are set with. I haven't unlocked additional homing. In addition to that, in the bottom left of the screen, you see the reinforcement percentage. So as you defeat enemies, more enemies will appear with the reinforcements as that, so the more that show up, the fewer reinforcements there'll be, and then when you're down to all the reinforcements on the screen, you'll have the total number of enemies there. Therein lies the problem. We've got what feels like forever. So in most wave-based shooters, the waves go by pretty quickly. You're not going to spend a whole lot on all the waves, but this is the first stage, and like, I don't know, the waves just feel like they really take too long, and as in the progressive stages, they just get longer. And a part of my problem with the game is it gets to the point where it's feeling repetitive. So I do have a second weapon equipped as well, and in this case I'm using the flamethrower. The flamethrower is kind of neat as it sets the enemies on fire. Once they've touched the fire, you don't need to keep the shot on them to finish them off. They'll ultimately meet their end just from the damage over time effect that the flamethrower applies. So we've got a lot of really neat ideas, like all the different weapons and the customization you can get. Part of the problem with that, though, is just a relatively dull core gameplay. And a lot of times at the end, you have to hunt down that last enemy to take out to end the particular wave 1 complete. So in order to upgrade and unlock additional weapons, we need to defeat bosses. Bosses pop up every 5 waves. The problem that we have is all the time between those boss fights. If the waves were shorter and it was primarily just time spent with the boss fights, that would be something that would be a lot of fun in my mind. The bosses are some of the bosses as well can get really like large and are supposed to be kind of epic, but the gameplay just doesn't interest me enough to keep me going to actually see some of those boss fights. To be honest, when I was initially playing through this earlier, I was getting so bored I was nearly falling asleep. Not very good praise for a twin-stick shoot-'em up. It's kind of hard to stay alive when you're falling asleep at the controls. So eventually we'll clear this wave. The wave afterwards goes a little bit faster and we'll be able to get to the boss. But how about we just, I'll save you the time, jump to that so you can see a little bit of how a boss, although even just the first boss, goes. Alright, and after what felt like a small eternity, we're almost at the end of Wave 4. Just 2 more enemies left, and Wave 4 complete. Alright, so when you get every 5 waves, you'll get a boss. In this case, your first boss is the Mega Tank. Now, I've got this great stash of items, and fortunately the Mega Boss actually happens to be right on top, and sometimes that's not the case, as the Mega Tank doesn't stray terribly far from where it spawns. Not doing too good about not getting hit, but we'll go ahead and use our special a little bit to deal some heavy damage. On easy, the boss goes down pretty quickly, and we did unlock a new weapon, the Flak Cannon. That's actually pretty exciting, as that's what really interests me about this game. So when you defeat the bosses, each time you'll defeat the boss, you'll get a new weapon until all the potential drops they have are exhausted. After that point, you'll get upgrades for the weapons and the equipment that boss drops. That in and of itself is a really exciting idea. It's just too bad that the core gameplay is too dull and not really exciting enough to want me to stick around, or yeah, it's not enough for me to want to stick around and play it long enough to see everything that I can as far as that's concerned. So there you have it. We have XenoRaptor served up for your enjoyment. As far as the minus flavors are concerned on this one, so yeah, I just feel that it's too much on the dull side with the gameplay is concerned. And the waves, this is the first world and the waves feel long. But all the ones that I've unlocked after this, the waves just are like longer and more of a tedious slog. But on the plus side of things, well, there is the aesthetics. I do like the different design of your ship. Cyberdragon is a pretty neat space fighter to be flying around and blasting enemies with. And then there's the part that really, really interests me, the upgrades that you can obtain from the bosses and everything you can potentially do with that. There's just not enough there, though, to drive me forward in the long term. So, at the end, I can't give XenoRaptor an recommend. But if it's one of those things that looks interesting to you, you can choose to pick it up on your platform of choice, as it is available on all 4 of the main platforms these days. And at the time of this recording, it's even on sale on, to my knowledge, all of them. So that being the case, if you want to check this out, there is the ability to do so. Okay, that'll just about wrap it up for this week's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. As always, I want to thank you so much for coming out and joining me this week, and I look forward to seeing you again next week, and also next year. Happy New Year.